In 1999, Manchester United won a historic treble, the Premier League, FA Cup and Champions League. Despite the many millions of Roman Abramovich's Chelsea, the genius of Arsene Wenger's Invincibles, no one in English football has been able to do it since. Arsenal and Manchester United are now the only domestic rivals standing in the way of Pep Guardiola's Manchester City and their own slice of immortality. Yes, Real Madrid and one of the Milan teams might have a say in it too. I'm Mark Chapman. This is the Athletic Football Podcast. So to cover all three clubs here, we have the Athletic Sam Lee, Amy Lawrence and Andy Mitten with us. And all of a sudden, Sam, as you've written, the talk of the treble is now surrounding Manchester City because it's come late, this chat.
Yeah, when did I say that? I think it was after they beat Burnley in the FA Cup just before the international break. Because normally you can't move for it. Normally everybody can kind of see it come in. City are in all the competitions. February it starts. But obviously City had their own kind of relative problems in February. We were too busy talking about all of those on the pitch and off it, actually. And then all of a sudden they clicked into gear and they've carried that on since the international break. And yeah, Guardiola doesn't like talking about it. One of the reporters tried to get him on it last week. And he wasn't having it. And the reporter said, come on, it's only 11 games. And Pep was like, oh yeah, only, yeah. So he said, we'll talk about it before the Champions League final if we won the Premier League and the FA Cup. And I'm inclined to agree, but also that didn't make... Well, it was not enough for me to pull out of this podcast anyway. So yeah, let's see what you guys think about it.
Are the fans talking about it?
Yeah, in that kind of understated City way, like, oh yeah, it could happen, couldn't it? You know, it's that really. But I think if you were to take the mood of the City fans at this moment in time, it's still, oh God, I can't believe it's United in the FA Cup final. Because for a lot of City fans, it's funny because as much as they laugh at United's misfortunes and see how bad of a team they often are, as soon as City have got to play them or they're in a title race, which was a couple of years ago, they always think they're going to lose. I remember a couple of years ago when Solskjaer was the manager and City were like 15 points clear or something. They were laughing it up, and then City dropped points. And then there was a few City fans online going, oh, we're going to mess this up. United are going to win. It's like, United are going to win the rest of their games. You've spent all season telling us how bad they are, which is the same now. And now they fear they're going to win at Wembley, and that is a City fan's nightmare. But that's what they're thinking about more than anything else.
I tell you what, Andy, I know what Manchester United fans, a lot of them would have said if they'd lost to Brighton in the semi-final on Sunday, which is at least we don't then end up losing the final to City as part of them winning the treble. The excuse would already have been there. I kind of love the pessimism on both sides, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I spoke to a lad who goes home and away with City last night, and he said, can't any good come out of this? Can't we be proud that actually Manchester's got two really good teams? Can't we compare ourselves to being like Milan or Madrid as a great football city? And this is a lad who throughout the 1990s absolutely despised Manchester United. So I was a little bit surprised. It wasn't a good one for Manchester United. That defeat in Seville was horrendous. So there was a lot of pessimism going into the semi-final against Brighton. And now look, it's City. And I think for both sets of fans, there's excitement. It is an FA Cup final, but so many nerves as well. It's that fear of losing. And people are talking about the logistics of it, potential flashpoints at motorway service stations down on the way down there. At least, I saw a comment yesterday, at least one of the sets of fans will be leaving half an hour early, so we won't bump into each other after the game because someone has got to win on that day. And it's still a long time away. I think that Manchester United could have players back. City will be favourites. They've got a brilliant team. They're clearly on a run. Talk of the treble is now abounding. It's really, really difficult to win, even for a team as good as City. I know Guardiola won everything when he was at Barcelona, but a lot of teams have come close. But look at when Manchester United won it. Arsenal were fantastic. You need moments of luck. United got them in the semi-final. And then the final, most famously, against Bayern Munich, those two goals. It's really, really difficult. And there's always that element of risk with knockout football. Anything can happen. I think City will be favourites, but I spoke to David De Gea after the game the other day. And I said, there's a final against a team now called Manchester City. So, well, we've beaten them already this season. Yeah, that's true. But United have also conceded a load of goals in the derby at Main Road. I'm torn. I'm excited. I'm sort of saying, do we meet my brother-in-law down there because he goes home and away with City? I've got my mum on my case saying I'm upset because two of my grandchildren are like little City fans, and I'm like, how's my sister allowed this to happen by marrying a City fan? Our family was like pure United for decades, and not only did my sister marry a Blue, she married one whose whole family go absolutely everywhere. So if City play behind closed doors in Moscow and there's like 15 Blues there, they'll be there. I think this God's just sort of way of going, I'm going to give you a bit of fun as you get older.
This is horrible, Amy. I mean, you will know from Arsenal-Tottenham semi-finals in the past. And actually, I was talking to a Milan journalist last week about their Champions League semi-final. It's all very well for everybody else going, oh my God, how great is this? A derby, blah, 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 and a massive game. But actually, those involved, fans involved, in the main, the build-up to it and the game, it's absolutely the worst. It's horrible.
Pure hell, unenjoyable until the final whistle. There's just nothing to be gained until you're put out your misery. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm being slightly facetious, but I mean, looking at it from the outside in, yeah, I think there's going to be a huge amount of attention from non-Manchester people in this final, and I think there'll probably be a lot more Man United fans than usually when they're in a cup final around the rest of the country, just because of this feeling that when you have someone super powerful and it's so difficult to compete, you need that feeling as a football supporter that crazy things are possible, that things can happen that aren't very rational. So yeah, we'll be watching that one with interest, even though I'm sure you're all going to have like a hernia halfway through or something.
Just on the luck thing, and then we'll come on to Arsenal and Manchester City on Wednesday night very shortly. But the luck thing, Amy, is valid, isn't it? I mean, if you go back to the Manchester United trouble year, and look, there's nothing wrong in saying everybody needs luck at some point to be successful. And that FA Cup semi-final replay, United did. I mean, they were unlucky in some ways, but they actually had to ride their luck to actually make that through. And Manchester United, hang on,
where's the they were unlucky? Just run that one past me again.
Well, being reduced to 10 men, I think that wasn't
unlucky. That was a red card.
Well,
what I would say about that is, again, I'm glad Andy mentioned that, because even to this day, however many years later it is, going into that game, much as Man United were chasing a treble, Arsenal were chasing the double.
Yeah,
and they just won the double, so they were trying to sort of retain it. With a great side. There were two magnificent sides. I think that's maybe the thing that is a bit different about this version to back in 99, where, that battle at the top of the table was as even as it gets for many years between Arsenal and Man United. But Arsenal found that so difficult to recover from because they felt that was going to be a double for them again. And having a penalty to win it, very, very close to the end. I think it might have even been stoppage time.
Yeah.
It was almost, there was a real shell shock and disbelief, and that kind of then also affected the rest of the league campaign, which again, it did feel like the wind was in United's sails and gave them that energy that was unstoppable. It was a force of nature but it needed that semi-final pivotal moment, I think, for it to all go for United and all go against Arsenal in that particular moment. I don't think there would have been, there might not have been any trophies but for that semi-final.
I think you're absolutely, because I think, and the momentum at that stage going into that semi-final replay, Andy, was all with Arsenal, wasn't it? If I remember rightly. I mean, Manchester United had gone through a bit of a sticky spell, and this is how quickly things can change. I mean, we'll look ahead to Wednesday in a moment, but Arsenal are in a sticky spell and City are in imperious. But one thing changes, and all of a sudden, momentum is a funny thing.
And Manchester United didn't have that for large parts of the treble season. Look at the results in December of that season. They were atrocious. Lost the assistant manager, Brian Kidd. Steve McLaren came in. And look at the total league points. Wasn't that impressive. But the wind got in Manchester United's sail. The absolute pressure formed this diamond of a team. And you could say the same in the late noughties when Manchester United and Chelsea were the two best teams in Europe, because they were pushed each other so far and so hard. And I spoke to the players about this. That made them feel that they could beat everyone. They were being pushed to their absolute maximum. And this isn't a vintage Manchester United side yet. This isn't United and Arsenal first and second meeting head on. But what it is a first ever Manchester derby in the FA Cup final. I've still got bad memories of the 2011 semi-final. I think that was a real turning point for City. Beating Manchester United that day was like, okay, we can do this. We can win. And trophies started to follow. And I took a long time to forgive Dimitar Berbatov for missing a chance in that game, and pulled him up on it 7 years later. And he took umbrage a bit and went, well, what would you have done then? I went, well, I mean, he went, exactly. You can't tell me what I should have done when you can't do it yourself. Like, yeah, but you were playing up front for Manchester United. It was harder to miss than not to score. He wasn't having it at all. So I hope it's a sore point for him, because it was a very sore point for Manchester United fans. I think you can say stopping City winning a treble. United have got a history. Stop Liverpool winning the treble in 77. But Manchester United are also improving. This could be a second trophy in Erik ten Hag's first season, which would be really impressive if United can somehow finish in the top four as well. I said at the start of this season, top four finish and a trophy would be success for Ten Hag. Beating City in an FA Cup final, wow. That would more than cover up for the disappointment of not doing anything in Europe this season.